Welcome to Behind the Health Buzz. This is your host, Mushi, and today I'm so excited because we're diving into some of the biggest skincare and beauty trends that have been blowing up on TikTok and Instagram. I would also like to begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which we are recording today. I'm speaking from Canberra and acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land, the Ngunnawal people. Today, I have a very special guest joining us, Natasha. I have known Natasha through her work as a medical manager for one of the top skincare brands in Australia, and she's also a pharmacist. But for many of you, this may be your first time meeting her. Natasha, would you like to introduce yourself and tell us a bit about your background in skincare?
Sure. Well, thank you for having me, firstly. My name's Natasha and I'm joining from Melbourne. I'd also like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land of the Wurundjeri people. Hopefully I pronounced that right, of the Kulin Nation. We pay our respects to the elders past and present, and I also extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders peoples listening today. So my name is Natasha and I've always had, I guess, a strong desire to help people. I've also really been able to connect with people well, but I'll never forget the time when I was in high school and I saw the enzyme lock and key model. Mushi, that should be a little bit more fresh in your brain, considering you're a pharmacy student.
Yeah, it's that one big moment where you decide you're either doing biology or you are a maths person. Or English majors. It's a really big moment.
That was the pivotal moment of my life, and that explains some of the drug interactions. But I will admit, up to that point, I actually always wanted to be a cameraman. So didn't pursue that path. I'm now a pharmacist, obviously, and a medical manager at Bioderma. I've been a pharmacist in charge, pharmacist manager, and then I took a break from pharmacy, and with the help of an incredible mentor, I really focused on three key aspects, and that was to improve my clinical skills, provide education and training to other pharmacists, and believe it or not, I actually worked at a shoe shop so that I could learn from another industry. I've also volunteered at organizations where I learned things like grant writing and how to create an exhibition prospectus. And even now in my full-time role, I do really have a strong desire to stay curious, and I do have this hunger for learning. Typically, I'm probably in the pharmacy, I'd say, once a month. And my love for skincare, I guess, really started when I was given the opportunity to be a KOL for a skincare company and do conferences and education with dermatologists. And so before we get on to the questions, that's just a little bit about me. Just wanted to have a quick disclaimer as well, so that the views and opinions expressed in this podcast do not necessarily affect the position of Bioderma or NAOS. And I'm sure you'll agree this content is for general information purposes only, and it's not intended to replace medical advice, diagnosis or treatment. Consult a GP or healthcare professional that is quite specific to your healthcare needs. And of course, never delay seeking medical advice because of something you've heard on this podcast.
All right. Thank you for that, Natasha. So good to have you here. You have quite the vast of experience as a healthcare professional and in the skincare industry as well. But as you said, it's important to remind everyone listening that today is just general advice. And let's get into our episode and have a bit of fun with these trends.
Yes, let's go. I'm excited.
Before we get to the first trends and we get a bit serious with that, I had a question for you.
Sure, I'm ready.
If you had to choose only one skincare product to bring to a deserted island, what would it be?
Okay, this is like the easiest question for me to answer. 1,100% sunscreen. We know with sunscreen there is large scale, well-established, medically backed evidence and data to support its role in not only preventing skin cancers, but premature aging. And so I've actually, this sounds really weird, TMI, but I have got a bottle of sunscreen on my bedside table. My alarm goes off around 5:45. And as I'm drinking an espresso, I actually apply the sunscreen so that I give it 20 minutes to set before I start doing my makeup. And I'm also known in the office, I've got around 2 alarms to make sure I'm continuously applying sunscreen during the day. So that's definitely what the choice would be.
That is incredible dedication to sunscreen, Natasha, on that one. We all know the benefits of sunscreen, as you mentioned, and the importance of reapplying it. To be honest, I don't usually get the opportunity to reapply it through the day, but definitely from this conversation, I might put in a bit of an alarm there.
Yeah, and an alarm sounds good. And, now that I'm in the office as opposed to inside of the pharmacy, it's like even more important because of the UV that comes through to the glass. But I give you a challenge. Try to do it in the morning and then like 20 minutes before your drive home. So,
Okay, that could be
yeah.
a really good start.
Yeah.
Well, time for our first topic.
Perfect.
And we might start with a trend that makes everyone laugh a little bit, which is slugging. Basically, people are coating their face in Vaseline overnight and end up looking like a glazed donut. But the big question, does it actually work? Does petroleum gel really act as a barrier and keep the skin from drying out?
Yeah, so the glass skin, I think, and the appearance of glass skin is an interesting one that I'll get to a little bit later. Essentially, yes, this does. But the first thing that really comes to mind is that there's a difference between hydrating your skin and moisturizing your skin. And so I think, which we'll get onto a little bit later again, it's what is the actual goal? And so what's the goal? Like what's the patient or the consumer trying to achieve? But let's start, I guess, with what it is that these people are using. So commonly known by the brand name Vaseline. It's made from 100% petroleum jelly, which is actually a semi-solid mixture of hydrocarbons originally derived from petroleum or a crude oil. So I don't know if I can specifically talk about glass skin, but it is considered as what we call an occlusive agent. So occlusive agents work by forming a protective barrier like on top of the skin, and that stops transepidermal water loss. And so this is a process where water evaporates from the air into the skin. And so in the case of the slugging, it's the thick and oily nature of the petroleum jelly will seal in any existing moisture. And so it's important, I guess, to consider that it's not necessarily adding any moisture to the skin. And so I think that when people are talking about glass skin, I'll make an assumption that we know that when the skin is hydrated, fine lines and like smaller wrinkles appear less, if that makes sense. And so that's why hydration is really important. The other thing that comes to mind, though, as a caution is I've seen some people do this with serums as well, or even like OTC or prescription items. And so just a caution around what actives that you're using and what exactly you're applying underneath is a little bit of a watch out. But overall, you're putting an inclusive agent on the skin, so your water's not going to lose any moisture. Yeah, that's my thoughts. Thank you for asking.
Yeah, I think it's quite interesting when you said knowing what is the aim of applying a moisturizer on the skin. I guess many people are applying it and just hoping that it works magically to create that skin, glass skin look.
Yeah. And when you think about it, like, I don't know if you've put Vaseline on your face. I actually haven't yet. But when you put an ointment or an occlusive agent on your skin, like naturally for the time being, it's going to be like shiny and quite like glass looking, I guess. But whether that's permanent, I don't think so.
It's interesting that you mentioned giving it a try. I never as well haven't. I haven't put any Vaseline.
Yeah.
And for some
But
time, I it's just the feeling of it on the skin. And
yeah, and it's like
yeah, and for some time there were trends or a lot of brands were trying to actually go the opposite way, which going a bit more lightweight products. So do you feel like there's a group of people who would benefit most from slugging, and is there's maybe a group of people who shouldn't try it at all?
yeah. So I think so. As I said before, we know that it's that hydrated skin that can reduce the appearance, and keyword being appearance, of the fine lines and wrinkles. Um, Honestly, I think that there are just better products, technologies, or even ingredients that can achieve this. For me, I'd be very cautious, not only for sensitive skin, for acne prone skin, because we know that that could potentially cause breakouts, because it's going to really, um, what's the word I'm looking for, like block the pores. And so the other thing that probably makes me quite cautious, a little bit cautious about this one, is people are using so many actives and serums. So my advice is, if you're considering slugging, I think chat to a healthcare professional, or even like a dermatology nurse as well, GP, pharmacist, because it might lead to irritation and breakouts. Yeah.
And now that you mentioned all this great advice, if you had a customer who saw the trends online and walked into a pharmacy you would be working, what would you say to them? What would be the summary? What would be the main advice that you would provide them?
Yeah, so I think when it comes to anything like skincare or face related, understanding what the patient wants to achieve is the best place to start. People will look at trends like slugging, or yeah, even some of the supplements, those sorts of things, and it's kind of like, what exactly do you want to achieve? So that would be my first question to the patient. And from there, with my health professional kind of lens on, I'd be really looking at agents and ingredients, as well as formulations. So basically, I'd consider, after the patient has told me what they're kind of looking for, or if they are wanting slugging, and I'm assuming it's going to be so that their skin looks like glass. I would consider, what formulation preferences do they have. So is that going to be a cream, lotion, gel, or ointment? And that can be dependent on the preference. Also, though, considering the skin condition, any other medications, medical conditions, sensitivities, and then I would look for a product that has, in my opinion, the most three things you can look for when it comes to moisturizing and hydrating the skin, which you'd want to have a humectant that's going to attract water to the skin, an occlusive, so like your, well, yeah, Vaseline or petroleum jelly, that's going to trap water inside the skin, and then an emollient to soften and soothe and repair the skin barrier. So yeah, they're the three agents you'd be looking for. So essentially, a lot of the newer moisturizers and creams will have all three agents in there. So looking for a cream or a moisturizer that has all three of those things is going to be a big part of your skincare routine, and I think will probably achieve hydrated, plump looking skin better than just using one of the three agents.
Thank you for that amazing tip, Natasha. Next up, we have collagen supplements. They are in everything now: powders, gummies, even your morning coffee. People call it beauty from within. Natasha, what's your take on that? Do they really work, or are they just like an expensive snack?
Well, this is an interesting question. So naturally, as a pharmacist, I'm going to be looking at collagen and supplements through the lens of my like healthcare professional hat. And these are the three things that come to mind when I think about collagen or even supplements. So the marketing claims, the miracles that it can do, are often quite exaggerated. It's targeted at younger people, and you'll often find that a lot of the users are younger people as well. So that's interesting. And when it comes to collagen alone, most of the studies aren't done just on collagen. They're often combined with different types of nutrients and vitamins and other things. So it's hard to tell what is the actual collagen that's working. And the people that back the trials are often ones from the brand. So then how do you have that independent, objective sort of testing? Finally, if the collagen does get absorbed, how do we know that it ends up on the skin? So I did a little bit of research into this and just really understanding as well what is the data out there. And so on PubMed, there was a meta-analysis, and a systematic review, which looked at 19 studies. And so these were of about 1,000 participants. 95% were women, and the group actually showed favorable results with hydrolyzed collagen compared to placebo. But again, one of the issues with this studies was that it was funded by the companies or authored by employees of the companies. And again, it wasn't collagen alone. So it had like vitamin C, hyaluronic acid, CoQ, enzyme 10. And it's therefore quite hard to isolate collagen's effect. I should as well add that I guess what overarchingly is my area of concern is the cost. And similar to things like slugging, I think that there are just better ways to achieve better technology, better creams and those sorts of things that we can achieve, again, making an assumption that it's about, looking younger. There are better ways we can do that are more cost effective as well that we know will work.
Well, Natasha, we should definitely have you back again to talk all about the aging process and the other trends about reversing aging, which is also a big one. But going back to the evidence you mentioned about collagen and how it differs to medications, we know that there isn't enough evidence yet for us to be sure compared to maybe medications that take 10 or even 20, some of them, for us to prove that they work and for healthcare professionals to confidently, to some extent, give them to patients and people they take care of. So really good questions for you to pop out there. And I'm sure a lot of the people listening would now need to take a bit of a look into it and consider all the important things about how it might work for them or how it generally works. And going back into the evidence, even if it's a bit limited, what do you believe the science is telling us about the importance of collagen itself for the skin?
Yeah, so I think let's probably take it back just in case some people are listening and they're not sure, like, what is collagen and those sorts of things. And so collagen is essentially made of a protein. So you've got amino acids and peptides. And so like all proteins, they get digested in the stomach by the stomach acid into smaller units. Now you'll often see companies talking about hydrolyzed collagen. So basically what that means is the collagen is already broken down into the smaller units or peptides. And so it then gets absorbed through the intestines into the bloodstream, and it circulates throughout the body. Your body, I would say kind of has like a triage system or a priority system. And so it uses amino acids according to what your body needs. So, for example, vital organs, obviously, are going to get first priority over the cosmetic or non-essential tissue like skin. And so the idea is that these amino acids and peptides, I'll pause there. So the other thing that collagen does is in wound repair, it may stimulate fibroblasts or cells in the dermis to then produce new collagen fibers using those raw materials. So that's probably at the start. Anyway, so the other factors that also affect collagen production, though, are your age, diet quality, and vitamin C actually is a big one, as well as your overall health. I think overall, there's hundreds of dollars spent on collagen supplements, and might sound boring, but a well-balanced diet, sunscreen, a good moisturizer might be able to help. So I guess to answer your question, I think what people are sort of debating is, so how do we know that your body is going to prioritize the reassembly of the amino acids into a collagen when there are other priorities in your body? And so that then depends on levels of protein you have and how much vitamin C you have. And so that's where the scientists are a little bit like, how do we know it's going there? I think what would be helpful, and from what I have read, there are studies that are trying to demonstrate whether we can measure the collagen like in the skin tissue, because we know that that decreases overall as we age. So I think if we can get to the stage where it's like we can somehow get the body to reassemble the amino acids and then it creates the collagen and we can do testing like of the tissue, that's when I'd be like, yep, I can get behind this a little bit more.
There's definitely a lot behind just taking the collagen supplements now that you have mentioned all this information. And as time goes by, we just need to wait for that next big either skincare product or even medications and interventions that can actually achieve that with good evidence behind it. So you mentioned with supplements we need to consider other factors as well. You briefly went through them, but would you like to any tips and advice for the listeners on what other things that can support collagen better, that we might be a bit more confident that that is a better approach than just depending on that collagen supplement to get to the skin?
Yeah, sure. I think the other thing that I probably didn't mention was, in general, supplements are like they should be taken short term, and ideally under the advice of a doctor, dietitian, and the first thing that comes to mind is always, just with supplements in general, I'm talking about now, is there a deficiency? Because could you be potentially overloading your body? And then, of course, interaction with medications, other medical conditions that you have is a really important one to think about. As you know, to my knowledge, I'm not sure how many collagen supplements come alone, but often they're combined. And I might sound like a broken record, but sunscreen, it's like the best thing for premature aging. So sunscreen, as well as, I think that there is studies to show that like foods that are higher in protein and vitamin C may be able to support collagen synthesis naturally. And so I think if you can combine this with, sun protection, hydration, sleep, that's an important one as well. You've got the foundations for good, healthy skin. And I think this is where I guess the idea behind a lot of the broths come from, because there is a lot of nutritional value in that. Yeah.
Thank you for all those tips. And you don't sound like a broken record, but I feel like that's the internal pharmacist in you coming out and giving us all these important things to watch out before someone grabs collagen supplement off the shelf. And we went through 2 interesting products, but we might go into a skincare technique actually. And then this is where our retinol sandwiching comes in. We talked about donuts and now we're on sandwiches. It sounds like a very food type of episode, but still on that skincare trend. And retinol sandwiching is where you put moisturizer before and after retinol to reduce irritation. And many people claim that it could be used to reduce the peeling that happens with retinol. Do you think this trick actually works? Or is it just TikTok making skincare into a buffet again?
So I do believe in this principle. It doesn't, yeah, I'm quite neutral. It doesn't make me too mad. So the idea behind retinol sandwiching is to reduce irritation from retinoic acid. Then you will apply a moisturizer, the retinol, and then you will apply the moisturizer. So that's why it's like a sandwich. And so just so we're all aware, normally what happens is your skin cells will go through a process of creation and then clearing of the dead skin cells. Now, normally this occurs at quite a equal or well-balanced sort of ratio. What retinoic acid does is it increases the cell turnover, which means that there's actually a faster level of the clearing of dead skin cells. And so sometimes if this happens too quickly, the skin can become quite dry, red. Sometimes it can peel and it can even be quite sensitive. And of course, sun damage can occur. And so the new skin is exposed before it's fully ready, and this causes like a bit of irritation and those sorts of things. And so the over-the-counter products that you'll generally find at shops, which is your retinol, now that requires generally around 2 conversion steps to become the retinoic acid that has that effect. And so it is a little bit gentler, can take a little bit longer. However, it's probably better for the skin because it's a little bit more milder. Now, this is not to be confused or compared with the prescription strength retinoids that are already in the active form and are indicated for acne. And so retinol sandwiching, I think the most important thing is that when you cleanse your skin first, it's quite important that you dry your skin well. You can apply the moisturizer, then retinol, then moisturizer again to counteract that dryness and to soothe and soften that irritated skin. However, for me, the watch out is what type of moisturizer is the patient using? So, and are they using serums or other actives? Because again, is the retinol by itself? Is probably the question.
Thank you for explaining the science behind how it works. A lot of people might be using it but are not aware of how retinol works in renewing the skin and giving that better skin appearance. And as you mentioned, that the downside could be it could make your skin a bit more dry. Many people would be a bit cautious about using it for the first time just because of that side effect that might be a bit popular. Do you have any advice for someone who is nervous about starting retinol as part of their skincare treatment or something that you want to try for the first time?
Yeah, so again, always getting a quick opinion from a healthcare professional to make sure that it's suitable for your skin type, for the medications that you're on, for the phase of life, particularly with retinol, pregnant, planning to get pregnant, breastfeeding, those sorts of things, avoid. But that's why it's always better if you talk to your healthcare professional. And again, when you go to a healthcare professional, often it's going to be unbiased, objective advice. So that's an important step as well. And if they think that a retinol is suitable for you, then it's like start slow, go gentle, and always prioritize that barrier protection. Some of the advice that I give when I'm counseling my patients on the stronger prescription strength, which is obviously indicated for acne, is to use a sunscreen. So really important the next day, make sure you're wearing sunscreen. You're also having sun protection that you're reapplying every 2 hours as well. Hat, those sorts of things is really important. And build up tolerance. So you can do this either with shorter contact times. Some people will put it on their face and then clear it off, or even just a few nights of the week. And when you are using a moisturizer, just be careful to make sure there are no actives or even like acids and those sorts of things in case the retinol is quite strong. And so an emollient which is going to soothe the skin, repair the skin's barrier, an occlusive to trap the water inside the skin, and a humectant to draw more moisture into the skin. I think if you are going to choose to use a retinol, a cream or even an ointment might be a better base, and a non-comedogenic one as well. Yeah.
I'm definitely going to write these 3 words for my moisturizer: emollients, occlusive, and humectants, if I'm saying that one right. And
Yes.
next trip to the supermarket or to the pharmacy is going to be a bit of a research, but there's a lot of benefits, as we have talked about choosing the right moisturizer when starting retinol. And on the sandwiching, I feel like we are on a neutral spot. So a lot of good advice and a lot of things to watch out for as well. We have been having this really rich conversation about all those topics. I had a few smaller ones that we might quickly blast through.
Let's
All right, let's see. A bit of an interesting one: ice rolling the face every morning. You did mention putting the sunscreen one in, but what about waking up and ice rolling your face before putting on the moisturizer or makeup?
I mean, it won't hurt. I think if you massage the face, or if it's neutral, won't hurt.
What about a favorite? Probably sunscreen layering, SPF, putting a few more layers on.
Can you guess?
It is a very big yes, I can tell.
Yes.
We might have you for an episode also on putting on a few layers. I believe a lot of people might be struggling with that one, me personally.
I would love that.
And what about rice water for hair?
I haven't researched this one, but I'm going to say no. I think, yeah.
Research is needed for that one.
Yeah, exactly.
And castor oil for eyelashes.
Does this to make the eyelashes grow?
Yes.
Yeah, so I think similar with the rice water for hair. I think that if you put the castor oil on, you might have the appearance of the lashes looking more full and thick or shiny, perhaps. Yeah.
And last one, skin cycling.
So I'm neutral on this one. My only concern is the beauty industry just trying to get you to buy more products and then use one product a week. I do think, though, that skin cycling would be beneficial when it comes to your skin's tolerance. And I do believe that there are some dermatologists and even medical professionals that sort of recommend it. So again, like, it could be beneficial. I think we need to investigate a bit more, and it depends on where you're getting the information from for the skin cycling.
Well, Natasha, that was very useful information, even for our quick round. And that kind of brings us to the end. I would like to thank you so much for joining us today. It has been fun to unpack what's hype and what's actually useful in the world of skincare trends. Before we close, do you have one simple tip for students or young people who are overwhelmed by all this amount of information out there about beauty and skincare online, TikTok, Instagram, and the many resources that we have nowadays?
Yeah. So I definitely consider what's the source of your information. So if you can, always looking at websites, social media platforms that have a bit of objectivity, a little bit more of a medical background information and those sorts of things. But again, talking to GP, dermatologists limits the chances, at least, that there'll be like bias towards brands or products or those sorts of things. So yeah.
So that's your big tip for today for everyone listening. Find that healthcare professional who can make your skincare journey easy. Natasha is still out there helping other healthcare professionals give you this good advice. If you do need advice for yourself, you might want to speak with your GP or a qualified professional. And just a reminder, again, everything we talked about today is just general information. And that's it for this episode of Behind the Health Buzz. If you have enjoyed this episode, please share it with a friend or anyone who would benefit from this advice today. And until next time, question the trends and keep the buzz real.